My daughter-in-law drugged my drink, so I served her cold revenge. The champagne flute felt cool against my fingers, a stark, almost ironic contrast to the burning rage that was slowly, steadily igniting in my chest. I watched from the deepest shadows, my breath held tight, as she, my supposed best friend, Maya, the one who swore she had my back, slipped a tiny, insidious something extra into my glass. She thought she was being slick, a master of deception, believing she was about to ruin the biggest, most pivotal night of my entire life. Oh, how wrong she was. She had no idea, not the slightest inkling, that I saw everything. Every furtive glance, every subtle movement, every granule of that wicked plan was laid bare before me. And in that frozen moment, as the fizz of her poison dissolved, I knew, with a chilling certainty, that her elaborate scheme was about to backfire, spectacularly. It wasn't just a night, it was the night. The one etched in my calendar, circled in red, the beacon of hope I'd clung to through countless dark hours. It was meant to be the inflection point, the moment everything shifted, the culmination of half a decade of relentless struggle. Think about it. 5 years of grinding through soul-crushing double shifts at dead-end jobs, fueled by lukewarm coffee and sheer stubbornness. 5 years of sleepless nights spent hunched over a laptop, revising presentations, crunching numbers, dreaming big dreams that felt impossibly far away. 5 years of collecting more rejection emails than I care to count, each one a tiny paper cut to my ambition. But tonight, all of that was supposed to finally pay off. I was being honored with the coveted Rising Star Award at my company's annual gala. Imagine the scene. A ballroom dripping in opulence, crystal chandeliers shimmering like frozen waterfalls, their light catching every sequin and polished shoe. The air hummed with the murmur of 100 conversations, the clinking of glasses, the soft strains of a string quartet playing something classical yet undeniably celebratory. The guest list read like a who's who of the corporate world, sprinkled with a generous helping of people who, not so long ago, had subtly implied, or even outright stated, that I'd never make it past the mailroom. Tonight, I was proving them all wrong. I'd spent weeks, agonizing weeks, picking out the dress. It was emerald green, a rich, vibrant silk that cascaded off one shoulder, hugging my figure just right. The kind of dress that didn't just catch the light, it held it, absorbing the glow and radiating it back with a quiet confidence. My mom, bless her heart, had flown all the way in from Detroit, her eyes sparkling with pride, ready to witness her daughter's triumph. My mentor, Mr. Lang, a man whose gruff exterior hid a heart of gold, had promised he'd be there, with bells on, a rare show of enthusiasm from him. And then there was Maya, my rock, my confidant, the one who'd sat with me for hours, crying into cheap wine when my last serious relationship imploded, the one who would let me crash on her notoriously lumpy couch for 3 whole months when my landlord decided to go full tyrant and evict me with barely a week's notice. Maya, who I'd trusted implicitly, was supposed to be my +1, my cheering section, my partner in celebration. She showed up fashionably late, of course, a little flustered, carrying a gold gift bag with crinkled tissue paper bursting from the top. She'd claimed she'd stopped by 3 different stores, frantically searching for the absolute perfect congratulations card, one that truly captured the depth of her joy for me. I remember hugging her tight, the scent of her familiar perfume filling my senses, a warmth spreading through me. I thought, how incredibly lucky am I to have someone who celebrates me like this. The irony now, it's a bitter pill to swallow. The ballroom, as I said, smelled divine. A sophisticated blend of vanilla, expensive perfume, and the faint celebratory tang of champagne. The string quartet had transitioned to something a bit more upbeat, but still elegant. I kept teetering on my heels, a perpetual dance between grace and clumsiness, trying desperately not to spill the complimentary champagne while navigating a dizzying gauntlet of hugs, handshakes, and well wishes. Maya, bless her attentive heart, stuck close. Almost a little too close, I realize now. Every time my glass dipped below half, she'd be right there, topping it off with a cheerful, "Can't let the stars glass run dry, can we?" I just laughed it off, thinking, that's just Maya, always going above and beyond. Best friend duties, right? Such a naive, trusting fool I was. Around 8:30, the MC, a smooth-talking local news anchor, tapped the mic, his voice echoing slightly through the cavernous room. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Dinner will be served shortly." My stomach, already a flutter of nerves and excitement, did actual cartwheels. I whispered to Maya that I needed a quick escape to the ladies' room, just to splash some cold water on my face, gather my thoughts, and breathe for a moment before the main event. She, ever so solicitously, offered to carry my clutch for me. "Don't want to lug that around, honey," she'd said, her smile wide and seemingly genuine. I handed it over without a second thought, completely oblivious to the snake I was cradling. And that, my friends, is when things start to get patchy. The clear, crisp edges of the evening began to blur. Not immediately, not dramatically, but subtly, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. I was washing my hands, cool water splashing over my wrists, trying to steady my racing pulse. That's when I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the ornate mirror above the sink. And something was off. It wasn't drunk off, not like I'd had too much champagne. It was more insidious, like someone had smeared Vaseline on the mirror, blurring the edges of my vision, softening the sharp lines of reality. My pulse wasn't just racing, it was pounding, a frantic drumbeat in my ears, echoing the growing unease in my gut. I gripped the cold, polished marble counter, knuckles white, and tried to count to 10, to tell myself it was just nerves, just the overwhelming excitement of the night. But deep down, a tiny, insistent voice was whispering, "No, this isn't right." My head felt light, my balance a little wobbly, like the floor wasn't quite as solid as it should be. The vanilla scent of the ballroom now seemed cloying, sickly sweet. I splashed more water on my face, took a few deep, shaky breaths, and tried to convince myself I was just dehydrated or overly tired. But the feeling persisted, an unwelcome guest settling into my senses. Stepping out of the ladies' room, back into the long, plush-carpeted corridor, I scanned the milling guests, searching for a familiar face, a friendly anchor, and then I saw her. Maya. She was standing near the bar, a little too far from our table, a little too close to the shadows. My clutch was tucked casually under her arm, but what truly caught my eye was the other thing in her hand, a tiny amber pill bottle. The kind you get from a pharmacy. But this one was unlabeled, its surface worn smooth. My heart, which had just begun to calm, lurched into a frantic gallop again. She glanced left, then right, her movements quick, furtive, like a thief in the night. Then, with a practiced ease that made my blood run cold, she unscrewed the cap of the champagne flute I'd left with her, tilted the bottle and tapped it once. A tiny cloud of white powder, almost imperceptible, dissolved with a faint fizz into my drink. It was so small, so subtle, you'd miss it entirely unless you were looking. And I was looking. My eyes, despite the blurring, were laser-focused. I pressed myself flat against the cold wall, trying to disappear into the wallpaper, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My first instinct, primal and overwhelming, was to scream her name, to scream for help, to expose her right then and there. My second instinct, a more cowardly one, was to run, to flee the scene, to escape the sickening reality unfolding before me. But then, a third instinct, cold, calm, and utterly unfamiliar, surfaced. It was a quiet, dangerous whisper. Wait. Because here's the thing. I'd seen that bottle before. Exactly 2 months earlier, to be precise. We were at brunch, laughing over mimosas, and Maya's migraine meds had tumbled out of her purse, landing with a soft clink on the tiled floor. Same tiny amber glass, same faded label, scraped off with what she'd claimed was a rogue key. She'd joked about it being imported, a special blend she got from a friend abroad. I'd laughed, handed it back, and promptly forgotten all about it, chalking it up to Maya's quirky habits. Now, the pieces clicked into place with an almost audible snap, like the tumblers of a lock falling into alignment. Migraine meds? No. Something far more sinister. I backed slowly, silently, into the ladies' room again, my legs feeling like jelly. I locked myself in the largest stall, the opulent marble and gilded fixtures suddenly feeling suffocating. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely hold my phone steady, let alone type. How to tell if drink spiked? I managed to tap out, the letters swimming before my eyes. The search results flashed up, a chilling litany of symptoms. Sudden dizziness, blurred vision, nausea, loss of coordination, confusion, memory loss, check, and double check. Every single warning sign was already manifesting in my body. I stared at the screen until the words blurred into an indistinguishable mess. I wasn't losing it. I wasn't just nervous. I was being drugged. Systematically, deliberately, and with malice aforethought. By the person I trusted most in the world. I sat there, perched precariously on the toilet seat, my expensive heels hooked over the pipe, trying to breathe through my mouth, trying to quell the rising panic. Outside, in the grand ballroom, the MC's voice, now muffled, echoed faintly. Please take your seats for tonight's honors. I imagined my name, echoing in that magnificent room, my mom clapping so hard her palms would surely sting, Mr. Lang nodding sagely, a proud father figure, and Maya. Maya raising a glass in my honor, her eyes sparkling with false camaraderie, while she'd just tried to incapacitate me, to steal my moment, to snatch away everything I'd worked for. A cold, hard resolve settled over me, pushing aside the fear and the nausea. The blurring in my vision seemed to sharpen, focusing my intent. I straightened my emerald green dress, smoothed down the silk, checked my lipstick in the tiny mirror of my compact. And as I walked out of that stall, out of the ladies' room, one thought, clear and unwavering, looped in my mind. If she wants to ruin my night, I'll ruin her life. Not with violence, not with screaming, but with something far more satisfying, something cold, calculated, and utterly devastating. I slipped back into the ballroom, moving with a quiet determination, a predatory grace I didn't know I possessed. The noise and glamour, which had felt overwhelming moments before, now seemed distant, a backdrop to the singular drama unfolding. Maya was still hovering near our table, my champagne flute still in her hand, swirling it idly, almost possessively, as if she could somehow mix the poison better, ensure its efficacy. The sight of her, so casually holding the instrument of my potential downfall, ignited a fresh surge of icy anger. I approached quietly, my steps muffled by the plush carpet, and tapped her lightly on the shoulder. She startled, a small jump, and a tiny splash of champagne sloshed over the rim of the glass. Her eyes, wide with what I now recognized as fake concern, darted to mine. "Hey, you okay?" she asked, her voice a little too sweet, a little too solicitous. "You were gone a while." I let my voice wobble just a touch, feigning a slight weakness. "Just a bit lightheaded," I murmured, pressing a hand to my forehead. "Think I need some air, or maybe just something non-alcoholic. Could you possibly grab me a sparkling water, please?" My head spinning. The moment she turned, her back momentarily to me, preoccupied with the task of finding a server, my hand moved. It was swift, precise, almost imperceptible. I swapped the glasses, her untouched, innocent champagne flute for my now poisoned one. It was as simple, as natural, as passing a salt shaker across a dinner table. My hand was steady. My heartbeat, surprisingly, remained calm. The tremor was gone, replaced by a quiet hum of adrenaline. She returned moments later, a bottle of sparkling water and a fresh glass in hand. She pressed the water into my palm, her brow furrowed with that practiced faux concern, and gently guided me back to our seats. I picked up the glass I'd just swapped, the one now holding her own nefarious concoction, and raised it slightly. "To us?" I said, my voice clear now, the wobble gone. My eyes met hers, and for a fleeting second I saw a flicker of something in her gaze, a triumph, a smug satisfaction. I clinked my glass against hers, a delicate chime echoing in the vast room. "To your big night," she echoed, her smile wide, utterly oblivious. And we drank. I watched her, subtly, covertly, as we sat through the first course. The classical music, the clinking of silverware, the polite chatter, it all faded into the background as I focused on her. 10 minutes in, her pupils, normally a warm brown, began to dilate, ballooning slightly. Her words, initially crisp, started to slur just a little, a subtle blurring at the edges of her consonants. She giggled at something innocuous, then blinked slowly, like she'd forgotten why she'd opened her eyes in the first place. Classic rohypnol symptoms, I remembered. A chilling echo of my frantic Google search in the bathroom stall. The internet, bless its anonymous wisdom, had taught me that much. The effects of a spiked drink, I now understood, could be unpredictable and deeply disorienting, causing everything from drowsiness and confusion to memory loss and loss of balance. It was all playing out before my eyes. I leaned in, my voice a low, concerned whisper. "Maya, are you feeling all right? You look a little out of it." She tried to stand, perhaps to assert her sobriety, but her legs betrayed her. She swayed violently, knocked over a nearby chair with a loud clatter, and then, bizarrely, mumbled an apology to the inanimate object. Heads turned. A few curious glances lingered. This was my cue. I looped my arm through hers, a picture of supportive friendship. "Come on," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "Let's get you some air." We exited the main ballroom, past the bustling dessert station where a pyramid of chocolate-dipped strawberries gleamed. On an impulse, a tiny, wicked spark of foresight, I snagged one. I took a bite, savoring the sweet and tart, and then, as Maya stumbled beside me, I let the other half drop discreetly into her open clutch, which was still tucked under her arm. Evidence, I thought, just in case. Outside the service door, the corridor was a stark contrast to the opulent ballroom. Quiet, dimly lit, lined with industrial carpet that seemed to swallow all sound. I guided her to a utilitarian bench, sat her down. Her head lolled to one side, her eyes unfocused, struggling to stay open. "I saw what you did," I whispered, my voice devoid of emotion, a chilling calm washing over me. "The bottle, the powder. You wanted me out of the picture, didn't you? So I'd miss my award. Why, Maya? Why would you do something like this?" She blinked slowly, her mind clearly struggling to process my words, to form a coherent response. "Personal," she slurred, her voice thick and heavy. "Just business. Business." The word hit me like a physical blow, even through the haze of my own lingering drugged state. My stomach flipped, a fresh wave of nausea rising. And then, it all clicked into place, another piece of the puzzle slotting in with sickening clarity. I remembered then. Just last month, Maya had applied for the same highly coveted regional manager promotion I'd just been shortlisted for. HR had kept the finalist list confidential, of course, but I'd told her anyway, over margaritas, trusting her with my excitement, my hopes. She'd hugged me then, her smile radiant, saying she hoped I got it, that I totally deserved it. Now I understood. That hug wasn't an embrace of friendship. It was a noose, tightening around my neck. With a cold resolve, I opened her purse, found the tiny amber bottle still nestled inside, and snapped a quick, discreet photo with my phone. The evidence was piling up. Then, I hailed a passing bellhop, a young man with kind eyes. I slipped him a crisp $50 bill, along with instructions to make sure my drunk friend here got an Uber directly to her condo, door-to-door service, no detours. I even buckled her seatbelt myself, a final perverse act of care, and waved goodbye as the car pulled away. The driver, bless his unwitting heart, was just pulling out of the hotel driveway as the MC's voice, clear as a bell now, called my name inside. I walked back in, my heels clicking a steady rhythm on the marble floor, my heart still racing, but now, weirdly, wonderfully steady. I accepted my award to a standing ovation, the applause a roaring affirmation. My mom, in the front row, openly wept tears of joy. Mr. Lang beamed. A proud dad indeed. I smiled for the cameras, every flash freezing the moment, a memory I knew I'd never, ever forget. It was my night, and no one, especially not Maya, was going to take that from me. The next morning, I sat in my kitchen, the unforgiving morning sunlight stabbing at my hungover eyes. No, not hungover. Drug aftermath over. My body felt like I'd been microwaved, every nerve ending buzzing with an unpleasant electric current, my head throbbing with a dull, persistent ache. The world seemed a little too bright, a little too loud. I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead, the rich aroma a welcome assault on my senses. And then, with a deep breath, I opened my laptop. I typed steadily, methodically, every word chosen with precision. I attached the photos, the tiny amber bottle in Maya's hand, a close-up of her fingers on my champagne flute, her glassy, unfocused eyes outside the service corridor, a silent testament to her incapacitated state. I carbon-copied HR, the head of security, and, on an impulse that felt both audacious and entirely justified, our CEO. I ended the email with a clear, concise statement. I expect a full investigation and appropriate disciplinary action. I am available to provide additional evidence at your earliest convenience. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was HR. They wanted me in at noon. I arrived in my most comfortable jeans and yesterday's smudged mascara, because why hide the damage? Why pretend this hadn't shaken me? Let them see the toll. They sat me in a sleek, glass-walled conference room, offered me sparkling water in an unopened, factory-sealed bottle, a smart, subtle gesture that didn't escape my notice. I laid out the timeline, a calm, factual recitation of events. I showed them the photos, zooming in on the incriminating details. And then, the pièce de résistance. I produced the chocolate-stained clutch. The bellhop, a true hero in this saga, had returned it to me earlier that morning. Apparently Maya had gotten violently ill in the Uber, and the driver, quite understandably, wanted reimbursement for the cleanup. He'd even sent me photos of the unfortunate incident, bless his thorough entrepreneurial spirit. More evidence, neatly packaged. They listened, their faces grim, taking copious notes. They asked if I wanted to press criminal charges. I said I'd wait to see how the company handled it internally. Translation: you fix this, or I escalate. Drink spiking, I'd learned from my frantic research, isn't just a rude prank. It's a serious criminal offense, carrying severe penalties in many jurisdictions. In the UK, for instance, it can land you up to 10 years behind bars. In the US, it's often prosecuted as felony assault. I wanted them to understand the gravity of the situation and the legal implications for their company if they failed to act. By Friday, the rumor mill was churning, but the official word came swiftly. Maya was involuntarily separated from the company. The whispers said she'd received a substantial payout in exchange for signing an ironclad NDA, silencing her from ever speaking about the incident. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the NDA. What mattered was the swift, decisive justice. Her LinkedIn profile still proudly proclaims open to work, but corporate circles talk. They always do. Last I heard, she's interviewing at some obscure startup that specializes in artisanal dog water. I wish them luck. They're going to need it. So here's what I learned, etched into my very soul. Betrayal burns hotter, more intensely, than any spotlight, any public humiliation. But revenge, cold, calculated, and most importantly, legal, tastes infinitely better than the finest champagne. I didn't spike her back, not in the way she tried to spike me. I didn't descend to her level of criminality. Instead, I simply let her own weapon, her own malicious intent, swing back and strike her. That distinction, my friends, matters more than you can possibly imagine. Revenge shouldn't land you in jail. It should land you in a place of peace, of vindication. Drink spiking, let's be absolutely clear, is not a joke. It's not a harmless prank. It's a serious crime with potentially devastating consequences. The effects of a spiked drink are terrifyingly unpredictable. One moment you're fine, the next you're confused, dizzy, losing your balance, or worse, completely unconscious. This isn't just about feeling a bit woozy. It's about losing control, becoming vulnerable to assault, robbery, or even more horrific scenarios. Millions are affected annually, and countless incidents go unreported because victims feel ashamed or believe it's pointless to report. But it's not pointless. It's a violation, and it should be treated as such. If you ever see someone messing with your drink or a friend's drink, do not shrug it off. Do not dismiss it as a mere prank. Get help immediately. Get evidence if you safely can, and get loud if that's what it takes. Spiking is a crime in most countries, as I mentioned, up to 10 years behind bars in the UK, often felony assault in the US. The law takes this seriously, and so should you. The best defense, of course, is prevention. Never, ever leave your drink unattended. Watch it being poured. If you accept a drink from someone, make sure you see it made, or ideally, get it yourself from the bar. Avoid accepting drinks from strangers, or even from people you don't fully trust, if you have even a shred of doubt. Simple steps like using protective drink covers or carrying test strips can be incredibly effective safeguards. Your safety is paramount. Now, about flipping the script. If you're brave enough to take control, to turn the tables on someone who means you harm, do it smart. Do it legally. My story isn't about advocating for tit-for-tat revenge that puts you in legal jeopardy. It's about being vigilant, being aware, and using your wits to protect yourself and ensure justice is served through proper channels. It's about recognizing a threat, assessing your options, and acting decisively, but within the bounds of the law. My act of switching glasses was a spontaneous, protective reaction, a way to ensure my own immediate safety and turn the tables without engaging in an equally harmful, illegal act. It was about exposing the truth, not perpetuating the crime. So, I'm genuinely curious. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have walked away, called the cops immediately, or, like me, found a way to switch the glasses and expose the betrayal? Drop your thoughts below in the comments. Let's start a conversation about vigilance, safety, and how to respond when faced with such a profound violation of trust. And if you want more stories about turning the tables on people who underestimate you, people who think they can get away with anything, then hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Trust me, payback, when it's served justly and smartly, is always a story worth sharing. Tonight I'm raising a new glass. Sparkling water, of course, sealed bottle, eyes wide open, to fresh starts, to hard-won battles, and to fair wins. Maya thought she could dim my shine, extinguish my moment, perhaps even derail my entire career. Instead, she became the cautionary tale everyone whispers about at open bar events, a stark reminder of what happens when malice meets unexpected resilience. Me? I'm still climbing, still pushing forward, that gleaming award sitting proudly on my shelf, my head held high, my drink untouched by deceit. And if anyone, anywhere, ever tries to drug your dreams, to poison your path, remember this: you don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to fight fire with fire or poison with poison. Sometimes, the quietest revenge, the most calculated and legally sound retribution, is truly the sweetest. It's the kind that leaves you standing tall, while your betrayer crumbles under the weight of their own actions.